absolutely, he just doesn't enjoy it anymore. But this book, it just kind of highlights how the healthcare system is at capacity. And what our product is trying to do is solve that and make it a more equitable healthcare future for everyone. And so our co-founders sign the book and they say, this is why we do what we do. And we send this to candidates. And it's really nice. It's not like, Sarah, you mentioned like swag, and then it's awkward if they don't get the job, or like, it's like a reminder. We don't do that. But we do give a book, and we found that works really well. And it is pretty personalized approach. And then we've done actually some really crazy personalized stuff. We've once sent flower to a candidate who actually didn't join us in the end, but we sent her flowers. It was like, she had a tattoo of like I can't remember what flower it was, but it was like a native flower. And we sent her that of her native country from South Africa. And she loved it, but unfortunately didn't join us, although maybe for the future. So we've done a few creative things at the final stages. And then obviously, like when it comes to onboarding, I think it's really important to make sure, usually there's like 4, sometimes 6 weeks before someone starts, there should be a weekly touch point. So map that out before a candidate joins. Somebody is getting in touch with them, whether that's your P&C, whether that's their manager, which of course it should be as well. Think about making sure whatever touch points you're communicating weekly before they arrive, so that there's not this big disconnect. And that is also a danger zone for when a candidate might just accept another offer and reject yours, even though they verbally accepted and whatnot. So just trying to keep them engaged throughout the process from start to finish, really important and personalized.
Awesome. And maybe SMK, you've got the lens of working with some very, I guess, early stage startups, smaller businesses, maybe a little bit leaner as well. So what are some of the essential things that, you need to get right in that candidate experience from your perspective, from what you've seen?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with startups all the way up to startups that are about ready to IPO. So all sorts of stages. And at Pathment, we are so lucky. We call ourselves the anti-agency. We're not we're not a recruiting agency. We're actually in-house talent advisors that are advising people on processes. And what I realized is especially 4 years of working with startups and scale-ups here in Australia, there's no one size fits all for a company as far as what works. And so what we try to do is really identify where the real needs are and the types of candidates that they're trying to attract. Yesterday, I was talking to a founder, and he's trying to pull candidates off construction sites to work with them, to come into the office and work on a product that's geared towards folks in the construction industry. So we have to really focus on how are we going to go and try and engage that type of candidate. It's not your typical, I'm going to reach out on LinkedIn kind of messaging. So I'm a big fan of tools, big fan. And I'm so lucky in the fact that I do invest in companies. I'm constantly reviewing various tools and startups that are kind of focused on engagement and the employee experience. I'm such a huge fan of Employment Hero, so I probably wouldn't be here today. I personally use Employment Hero because it has made my life at Pathment, managing my team, so easy. And Pam, I know you talked about the onboarding experience. I've had so many of the people that work at Pathment tell me it's one of the most beautiful onboarding experiences they ever had. And it's because everything is kind of set up. There's so many templates. It's very customizable. It also makes my one-on-ones very easy because there are specific templates that you can use. You can ensure that all of that data is being captured. It was super easy to implement. So the big thing that I'm hearing from businesses that I'm working with are, it can't be too costly, and it's got to be very easy for me to use. And I've got to be able to implement it very quickly because a lot of people don't have a whole lot of time. So when I do come into a business, the first thing we're asking is, do you have an applicant tracking system? Applicant tracking systems are incredibly important when you're about to start out recruiting. And a lot of times when we've got really early stage startups, they're keeping resumes in a drive somewhere and they've got spreadsheets. So what we're trying to do is get that into a system so that you can kind of follow those processes that Pam is talking about. In fact, for all the listeners out there, I think we'll include my Pathment recruiting checklist that takes you all the way through to onboarding so that you kind of can follow what works best for you, but it's our basics for how you would do that. There's some amazing applicant tracking systems out there that are actually fairly inexpensive. Workable is one that I've used many times. It has an AI talent mapping tool because a lot of people, hiring managers, can't be bothered going onto LinkedIn doing Boolean search strings, doing some of those reach outs. Workable makes that super easy. Greenhouse also has an AI functionality. I've worked with tools like Lever, and I know that Employment Hero is now going to be launching theirs, and it's going to be pretty exciting. So I'm really pumped that that's included in our package here at Pathbank. So I'm going to dig my teeth into it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to you having a look at SMK. It's actually shaping up to be fantastic. Awesome. So might pause there just for a moment because we'd love to hear from the audience. And look, we're going to launch a bit of a poll now. We want to understand, what strategies do you use to retain top talent in your business? So you probably see something pop up on your screen now. Love to kind of hear what you're thinking. Obviously, compensation, benefits, are a lot of businesses trying to use what they have, or reward and recognition programs. Employment Hero have a fantastic way of kind of handling that as well. We have our shout outs, we have our values champions that we kind of promote through our platform as well, and then there's flexible working arrangements, and there's other strategies. Love to kind of hear what you have to say. So submit your choice. And we'll just wait a few seconds to kind of see what's coming through.
Yeah, just on that, Heath, I think that's a really good. Yeah, but we have a kudos channels. We're using Slack, and people just ad hoc kudos at someone for doing a great job. It really helps to encourage a really nice, positive, supportive culture. And then kind of more structured every quarter, we do have kind of more values-based awards, so people can nominate for a much bigger award with an actual monetary, like I think $250 Prezi voucher at the end of it,
not bad.
for living the values. So it's a nice way to also kind of reinforce the values and provide a bit of extra recognition.
And Employment Hero does it too. So I'm able to actually give people kudos through Employment Hero whenever something amazing happens. So whenever somebody on my team fills a role, I'm able to gift them through the Employment Hero system.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? It's really, really simple to use. And we have a Slack integration for it now too. I'm not sure if you've seen that, SMK. Awesome. Well, looks like we've got the results in. Surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, flexible working arrangements are the top choice for most businesses to I guess leverage and help retain and attract new talent. And obviously, recognition rewards programs, probably something people haven't had access to previously. Maybe they've not had I guess a system to help enable that. So definitely you can be as simple as kind of sending an email of kudos or a Slack message, or maybe you have a WhatsApp group or whatever it might be. But these kinds of programs are super cheap, super easy to do, but they have massive impact as well. So but thank you so much for participating. Cool. So look, it's actually a good way to kind of talk about our next topic, which is recruitment technologies and how to, I guess, really enable yourself to attract the right talent. Also, make your life easier as someone who's a hiring manager or a recruiter. So, we'll talk about how, I guess, recruitment technology has evolved over the last few years, and we've kind of touched on it a few times already. But I'd love to hear, I guess, about what technology has enabled or made more efficient for each of you. How has it helped scale when you've been hiring maybe a number of people at once, or just hiring for the first time and that kind of thing? So maybe we'll pop back to you, SMK. I'd love to hear about how you've helped businesses gear up for scaling. What's your, you kind of touched on a few of them, but what's your kind of go-to recruitment tools at the moment? And I guess, how do you think technology has evolved over the last couple of years?
I'm laughing as you're saying this, because I remember very early in my recruiting career that I was at a workshop or a seminar, and they said, oh, someday all you recruiters are going to be out of jobs. And I'm still here 15, 20 years later, how many years it's been. And actually the processes don't really change that much. The tools get better. And if you can harness those tools and really use them to your advantage, it does make your life easier. But oftentimes I find you need somebody who's very experienced as a recruiter to still understand that, because you've got this amazing high-powered tool, but you still have to use it. And so I'll use the case of Chronosphere. They are the fastest growing unicorn in the US. I started with them. It was just a small leadership team, was building out their entire team. And I really needed to think about the future. Even the founders at the time couldn't see how fast they were growing, but then they accepted a check from Greylock and everything blew up. So we really needed to build systems and processes and put those into place for that growth. And I'm extremely proud of where they are today because we set them up for that kind of success. So we brought in Greenhouse, which is, I think, a really great tool as an ATS if you're going to go global, and it builds, especially if you're going to have lots of distributed offices, and putting in those really important processes that Pam was talking about to ensure you had checks and balances, to ensure you had smooth processes, because there comes a time where a founder may not be able to be in every single interview and make every single offer call at the end. So bringing in those tools to help make your life easier, to make sure that you're not letting a candidate slip through the cracks when you've had over 2,000 people apply for your jobs, and making sure you're getting back to all of those people thoughtfully is really important. So having tools, like I said, like Greenhouse is it's probably my favorite ATS system at the moment. To do that. But then also there are some amazing tools out there like Crystal Knows, which is an AI tool that allows you to determine from somebody's writing what their personality is and how to approach them. So one of the things I'll do first before reaching out to a candidate is run Crystal Knows over somebody's LinkedIn profile and figure out what is the best way to approach them. What we found with engineers, especially female engineers, that it typically takes 3 to 4 reach outs in order to keep them engaged. And so what our team oftentimes has to do is really roll up their sleeves and continually find a way to thoughtfully reach out to candidates to get them engaged. So we have a very high diversity rate of hiring, especially in engineering for a lot of our companies. And we can typically do it in about 30 days, hire people for a company, where the industry standards typically is 60 to 90 days.
Yeah, I mean, that Crystal Knows sounds really interesting. Anyone else have any pieces of tech that really enhance that candidate experience, or just other pieces of tech that kind of enhance the recruiter or hiring manager experience?
I think something that we're doing, we walked away from it for a little bit, but we're reintroducing it, is assessments. So I think especially when you have that scale where you've got a lot of applicants, or, in particular in our early professional space, the intern and graduate program, when you've got so many people applying, and how to help us to better screen. So having those assessments in place to be able to, bring down a long list for us. So making sure that when we are using assessments, they are something that are engaging, so that people aren't opting out because they're afraid of an assessment. So something that is fun but also brings that element that we are able to assess them against other candidates. So I think for those organizations that do have quite a large number of applicants, looking at a tool such as that would help them from a recruiter perspective, being able to do their job more efficiently by having an assessment in place.
Yeah, and I think that the trend is obviously with AI, a lot of these tools when it comes to resume screening, candidate sourcing, assessing candidates better, video interviews, they're all AI driven. Yeah. And they cost money. And to invest in them, to make it worth your while, you'd probably be more interested in doing it if you had more volume recruitment. Now, in my case, we don't have volume recruitment. So for us, we haven't so much invested in these, but one I'm particularly interested to do when we have a little bit more budget will be something around there's a recent study actually, and I will link you guys and share this to all the attendees afterwards, from the AFR, which it's from Monash University, and they've just published it about how AI is more likely to hire women than humans. And so there's like an AI chatbot that you could use to the initial assessment. And it found that when recruiters and hiring managers didn't know the gender of the candidate, but used the chatbot to do the assessment, more women were assessed highly than they were if they knew the gender up front. And so these sorts of tools and encouraging us to be a lot more thoughtful and considered and be able to properly reduce bias in the process, I think are really, really important, particularly for organizations are looking to hire more women in tech like we are. And so that's where I would put my sort of investment. But I do recognize there is a lot of innovation that has been happening, particularly in larger organizations for volume recruitment. Though for us, it's more been a focus of because we're a little bit more constrained by cost, it's more about automation, making sure we have integration set up properly so that we're efficient to do our work in the best way possible without spending heaps on systems yet. Though where I have the budget, I would look into something like this. And I'm also looking into an offer platform that I mentioned earlier, which just makes it, will help improve our offer acceptance rate, hopefully.
Right. And so it seems like reducing friction is a really big point of a lot of the technologies that we use, making sure that we have the ability to get back to candidates when they are expecting us to, and then leveraging AI to kind of enhance how we operate, removing some admin burden, that kind of thing. I know that we've been using ChatGPT and other generative AI here for writing job descriptions, even looking at how our templates read and adapting those templates to the right audience as well. So there's lots of different things you could do, and some of them are free, which is great. So awesome! Thank you so much for covering that. I do have a final question for the panel, and look, I'd love to know what, if anything, if it's just one piece of practical take-home advice that you could give to our audience today, what would it be? Maybe SMK, maybe if you want to kick off.
Yeah, the reason why I became a recruiter is because I really love people succeeding on their career journey and watching people kind of thrive. So treating people like humans is going to be incredibly important, especially in the next few years with the advancement of AI. So not losing sight of what we're actually trying to do, which is to guide people to the right jobs, the right companies. That's something I'm incredibly passionate about. And at Pathment, we're pretty picky about the people that we work with because we want our clients to feel the same way about the hiring.
Go for it, Pam.
Okay, all right. So my biggest tip for everyone is to grow your network. Your network is your net worth. And I honestly wouldn't be where I am today were it not for the people and the mentors that helped me along the way. And particularly if you are in a startup scale up, it can be lonely. You don't have a big team. And even if you are in a large enterprise, everybody has to be bringing in new ideas, finding ways to innovate. You don't just want to be in a position where you're just acquiring talent. That's a dangerous position to be in the market right now, I feel like, because the market has slowed. 30% of Australian jobs, Australians are hiring 30% less than we were this time last year, according to LinkedIn survey data. And so, talent acquisition is in a tough spot right now. And I really feel for our industry. So the best way that we can survive is to upskill ourselves, to grow our networks, and just to be there for each other and leverage supporting each other and helping somebody out who might be in need right now. And there's a few of us in this boat. So I would really encourage you to grow your network, give back where you can, and that I think will help put us in a better position for the future, and diversify your skills.
Great. And from my perspective, one piece of advice is to really have a look at your candidate experience, and do note that, for those that aren't progressing through to your offer stage, their experience almost needs to be, as superior or even more superior than those that you are offering, because you never know how you are going to engage with those people, in the future, whether we need to reach out to them for another role or they might become a vendor later on. So it's really important from that candidate experience perspective, not only for those that are progressing to offer, but for those that we are not progressing with, to really look at your experience that you're giving them, so that they are able to walk away still happy with, the end-to-end experience that you've given them throughout your company. So I think that's something that I would really tell everyone to definitely revisit their experience that they're giving.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great experiences, no matter what the outcome is, they stick in your mind. I definitely can think of a few that I've experienced, and definitely a few bad ones as well, right? So no, great perspectives. Thank you, everyone. Look, I am conscious of time. We unfortunately are going to run out of time, and so we won't be able to get to questions. However, we've taken note of the questions. We will be able to come back to those people and potentially answer them through our email as well. Once we do send it out, reminding everyone that we will be sending out resources and a link to this video in the coming days via your inbox. But thank you so much to our panelists. You have created such a great discussion today, really great insights. Hopefully a lot of our audience have learned a lot today. But yeah, no, thank you so much. It's been a great chat.
Thank you.
Hope to see you again